So we are looking at question 2 on paper 1, and as you can see, question 2 is always about the language, and it is always going to ask you to describe something. So in this case, we're describing the effects of the storm. And when it says language, we're going to be looking at three things, or for three things. Words and phrases. So in this case, those are things like sensory details, descriptive nouns, and verbs. Or we might be looking for language features and techniques, which are those rose map features. You can also look for sentence forms, but you don't have to, right? So remember, sentence forms are probably the hardest thing for us to be analyzing. It is possible, and there are some examples that we've looked at in our classes, but if you're not comfortable with sentence forms, don't stress about trying to include those. Remember that it's better to look for a little and to say a lot about. So look for those things you're more comfortable identifying and analyzing. Don't try to hit up each of the 3 bullet points. That's not why they're there. They're just there to help you remember what kind of language you're supposed to be looking for. Okay, so as we go through, we're going to be looking for effects of the storm. Anything that's not an effect of the storm, we can't really talk about because that's outside the focus of the question. So let's read through and we're going to analyze those quotes, those language words and phrases and techniques that are related specifically to the effects of the storm. So it says what had awakened him was the noise from the storm. Right, so already we know that there's the noise that, and the effect is that it awakened him. So what is that noise? Well, noise is a sensory detail, so we can already look at that. So we've got wind lashing the trees. Well, lashing, you could describe it as a descriptive verb, or you could describe it as personification, because lashing is kind of a human thing that people do to whip something, right? So it's that image of a whip hitting something so hard it leaves a mark, right? You've got rain on the rooftop, so you could talk about that in terms of the alliteration. You could also talk about it in terms of the sound it makes, right? It may not have specified the sound, but if you've ever heard heavy rain, you know that there's a sound to it. And then there's the obvious one, thunder, right? So that is obviously a sound. So we could talk about that in terms of the sound. It says he turned on the light with a sensation of being adrift in a boat and pushed closer to the bulk of the large dog sleeping beside him. Well, none of that is about the effects of the storm. So in this case, so we can't really talk about that. You could maybe say that it was the sensation of being adrift in a boat would be in effect in terms that it's of how it made him feel. But you need to be able to explain that effectively and clearly. But let's keep going. It says he pictured the roaring Pacific Ocean a few blocks from his house. So we've got the storm has caused the roaring Pacific Ocean, right? So again, we've got sound here in the word roaring. And we also have kind of a personification. Although animals can roar, oceans can't. So using roar in this case is kind of trying to personify it by making it sound like a human. Then it says spilling in furious waves against the rocks, right? So now you've got spilling as well. So the effects of the storm is causing the water to spill over. So you would talk about that in terms of just descriptive verb. It's nothing else besides that. Now the rest of this isn't really about the storm, and you can see that. It says he lay listening to the storm and thinking about the black bird and about his mother. Well, that's not the storm. Waiting for the pounding in his chest to die down. He was still tangled in the images of his bad dream. Now you might try to highlight pounding in his chest to die down. But as the next sentence says, that's connected to the bad dream, not the storm. So we can't really talk about that. So you've got loads of things going on here in terms of the effects of the storm. And you can pick any 2 or 3 of these to really describe. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to write this up, but I'm trying to keep the videos short so that you don't have to watch forever and ever. So if you want to see me actually write up this response, go to the next video and it will help.